Very importantly, he had been a political figure. For 16 years, he'd been a state legislator. So he was somebody who knew how to work with politicians, could work with Congress, and would not be a threat to Congress.
My dearest, it has been determined in Congress that the whole army raised for the defense of the American cause shall be put under my care.
Curiously, even when writing to Martha of his appointment, Washington is still pretending he doesn't want the job.
You may believe me when I assure you in the most solemn manner that so far from seeking this appointment, I have used every endeavor in my power to avoid it.
What he can't avoid is destiny. He takes the job for no pay and prepares to leave for Boston to take on the strongest army in the world, not yet knowing that all hell has already broken loose up there in a place called Bunker Hill. May 1775. The rebels' capture of Fort Ticonderoga turns up the pressure on the already beleaguered British commander Thomas Gage. Back in the French and Indian War, 2,000 British soldiers lost their lives seizing Fort Ticonderoga, and now Gage has lost it to the Americans. In London, King George is furious that Gage's superior forces have failed to control the colonists.
I am of the opinion that when once these rebels have felt a smart blow, they will submit. And no situation can change my fixed resolution, either to bring the colonies to a due obedience or to cast them off. King George III.
No more reasoning, no more legislating. The colonies will come to their senses or face a show of force unlike any they have ever seen. Gage is dismissed. He is too weak, too tolerant. To replace him, the British command sends its 3 best generals to bring the colonies to heel. These are England's best and brightest military men, who become known as the Triumvirate of Reputation. General Henry Clinton, American-born, a competent soldier, but socially inept, a man referred to even by himself as a shy bitch. General John Burgoyne, vain and ambitious. One popular English writer gives him the nickname Julius Caesar Burgonius. And General William Howe, an experienced military man who came to appreciate America's British colonials while fighting alongside them in the French and Indian War.
These 3 supporting generals were brought in essentially to supplant Gage, and it became a kind of personal contest between these 3 men as to who would take Gage's position as commander-in-chief in America.
Howe is the odds-on favorite, but an odd choice to take over the command in America. A political liberal, he opposes the king's policies in the colonies and had once vowed not to fight against his English countrymen there.
General William Howe was opposed to the war. All they wanted was the Americans to submit to British laws and British taxes. They didn't want to go fight them.
Boston, June 16th. In the months since Lexington and Concord, rebel militia in the hills around Boston have laid siege to the city, trapping the British and their loyalists inside. Now the British command is planning to break the rebel stranglehold with an overwhelming offensive up Bunker Hill to take the high ground around Boston. But the colonials are a step ahead of the British. Spies have slipped the British plans to the rebels. Up in the hills, regimental commanders from Connecticut and Massachusetts lead their men to fortify Bunker Hill, then decide to move one hill closer to Boston on Breed's Hill. There, they dig in for a British attack. Midnight, June 17th. 1,200 militiamen race the clock to beat the sunrise before it reveals their position to the British below. They must control the high ground before the enemy makes its own move. At daybreak, the sleeping British ships in Boston Harbor spot the militia positions and sound the alarm. All of Boston awakens with a start. The Patriots have beaten the British to the punch. The first full battle of the Revolution is joined. As the Redcoats assemble for battle, ships in the harbor try to pin down the militia with cannon fire. Under the command of General William Howe, lines of British soldiers, their bayonets at the ready, climb the hill without any cover. Easy targets for a man and musket that can shoot straight.
The British are convinced that they can form up in line and, despite taking casualties, instill in the Patriots fear of a professional, disciplined force of regulars and demonstrate to the Americans that this is madness trying to oppose this army.
Twice, Howe's men charge up Breed's Hill. Twice, they are repelled by the militia. From roofs and hilltops, civilians come out to witness the bloodshed. It is war as spectator sport, but many fear for their loved ones in the fight. The rebel barrage goes on for 3 hours until they run out of ammunition. Despite their advantage, the rebels have no choice but to retreat. The British finally capture the hill on their third charge.